We on a sister ship. We got it now. Come on, let's talk about sister ship. We got it now. Come on, let's talk about this. Talk about that. Let's talk about rain. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about living. Let's talk about living. Let's talk about hey. We're my sisters, we got this sisters. You go with me and I'll go with ya. We're my sisters, we got this sisters. You go with me and I'll go with ya. Success, ho! Sis, we know we on a mission. Hey! Help each other get over some things. Real strength, bring change. Cause we've been through the rain. Now it's time to shine like flame. Let's talk about life skills. We building up our quality to right wills. We're not a poverty, love kills. We on a sister ship. We on a sister
Was
ship.
that
the remix? Was that the remix? I miss you guys. Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years. And wait for a second. Oh my God. Look how pretty we look. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Woo! Woo! Stephia, how you doing, sis?
I am blessed this Sunday, honey. Blessed this Sunday. So glad to see you on with us today. Love it. Love it. We going. We going.
We got it going. And I don't think I've ever been on the show with Doris.
Doris. Come on in here, Doris.
I'm here. I'm here. Let's get ready, ladies.
Good topic. This is a great topic.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah. And Lady Wisdom, you know, I man, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to the Wiz and to Jane. I love you guys. I miss it. I'm a chill, you know, I'm just excited. So I excuse all this. You know, it's Sunday. I actually have on a jacket and not a fur. So I'm really excited. I'm just really excited. It's not that cold.
Well, then let's get into it. How about
Let's get into it, Mama.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Your introductions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So let's get it started, because today we're talking about, oh my God, and how many times do we hear about this, right? Who's advising your relationships and who's really qualified to give advice?
Yep.
Okay.
Woo! Wow.
Now,
yes. I always want to talk, but I'm be quiet. Go.
No. I need all the energy in this room today, because this is a deal. I mean, we all go through many different situations in our relationships, you know, whether it's, you know, you're dating somebody, living with somebody, you know, married, what have you. So, you know, I think the biggest thing is, you know, we want to talk about this because it's important, because when we think about all the situations we go through in our lives that impact our relationships, whether it be something internal with us, insecurities, or situations with our partner, we sometimes go to our closest allies, our friends, our family, what have you, and say, you know, we tell them about what's going on. But the question is, are those the right people in your life to give advice? Is counseling better? Is it people who have experiences in relationships? What type of experiences do they have, right? So let's get into it. So let's talk about first, because we can go from single to married, right?
Okay.
Single to married. So let's talk about, you know, you're in a relationship with somebody, not married yet.
Okay.
Go to your girlfriends. I'm having an issue with my boyfriend, or vice versa, boyfriend or girlfriend. I'm having an issue. This is the issue. I think there's something going on behind the scenes that I'm concerned about. Maybe you think you're cheating. Maybe it's not respecting the relationship, not valuing you, or you feel that way. What are some of the things, when we think about the value of our relationships and who we have a relationship with, who do you go to when you're having a concern as in regards to your relationship?
So
let's start there.
I would jumping in. So just background of we're talking about romantic right
Mm-hmm.
now. So
Mm-hmm.
my background romantic is I've been with my husband. We'll be married 23 years. We've been together 20 more, something plus of that. So I'm going to go back to that age, that time of the dating process.
Mm-hmm.
And being a younger person, it was my friends. It was my very best friend Karen, and she's probably watching and listening. That was my go-to, and I think a lot of times that's kind of where we do go, especially when we, as a younger person.
Mm-hmm.
You tend to then, though, you're all dealing with the same stuff. And I think that's where the poor choices come from, is that you're not talking to someone who has wisdom, usually, because a lot of times when you are feeling something, you kind of don't want to. So you don't usually go to someone that's really going to give you the real. You go to people a lot of times that's going to pacify you, because it feels better. So being in a relationship, and again, what the timeline we was talking about, you're feeling something. A lot of times when you're feeling something also is because that relationship might be different for you than it is for the person who you have become intimate with, or given yourself to. And also insecurity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who you are at that time.
Right.
A lot of times I know whenever I've felt something, I have been right. And I'm going to go before my now marriage. Whenever I felt something, and cheating's not like the worst thing or even the
Right.
thing. I'm just saying, being disrespected,
Right.
feeling hurt in a
Mm-hmm.
relationship. There's so many different moving parts. But
Mm-hmm.
going back to the question, who did I go to? I went to friends. And I want to put one little caveat here to the young people that are watching and listening. I would also say, which we hate, I know I didn't want to do, and I wasn't trying to do it then, but being hindsight, I wish I would have went to my parents. I wish I would have went to that auntie. When you're talking about relationships, I think, especially when you're young, that 10-year span is an important gap. That's that person that, give them a decade more time on this planet than you. The information that you're going to get is going to be so much more seasoned and helpful. It's going to be a helpful tool. So, Steffi, I know you're like the best auntie in the world because I see it all the time. So I'm telling your kids, your nieces, your nephews, go to your aunt, because she's mom and she knows. And I wish I would say that. So,
Yeah.
sorry.
And I mean, that's a good point. And I would love, I mean, Doris, going through kind of your relationships and the history that you have in relationships. And, to your point, Tiffany Rowe, I am the auntie, right? And I learned actually from my aunties, because my dad was very strict. I couldn't even have a relationship until I was like out of high school, although I did, but that's the past. We all have those relationships that were kind of hidden. But I went to my auntie, so that's a good point, because that's exactly how I learned from relationships. Doris, your thoughts on with your experiences as a young girl, getting into relationships. Where were you feeling like? How were you feeling as far as the advice was concerned, and where you went?
It was like the blind leading the blind. When you're young,
Yeah.
just like this, what can you tell me if you don't know? We're still doing stupid stuff. But as I got older and I felt more comfortable, I was able to go to my mother. I can still go to my mother if I need some type of advice. So It's just, when you take advice, you have to censor who you're getting the advice from. We have different relationships with everybody we have a relationship with. I might go to one person for this person for that, because I know that that's where their expertise is, or they make me feel a certain way. But I think after you get comfortable with who you are, you want to know the truth. Don't pacify me. Don't give me a bottle. Tell me the truth and let me work on that.
And that's
I love that word. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I love
Pass
that
me, go
word,
ahead.
censor.
Yes.
Doris, I really, I like using that, because we don't use, I will say I'm learning at this stage to be more sensitive to my sensory skills and who I'm allowing in, what their words and their explanations to me have meaning to my movement. For a long time, I allowed noise and I took it in.
Yeah.
So
Intent.
that,
That's intent, right? Like, what's their intent?
Right,
And
it
that's,
has
I think,
to,
right? Go ahead, Doris. I'm sorry.
and you have to know where is this person coming from. If this person coming from a place of love, are they looking out for me? And so that's a big thing. But I think as you get older, then you know who to pick and choose. You must go to the person that you get drunk with. You're not going to go to them because they're probably not going to give you the best advice.
I love that.
I love that. I mean, the whole censor, the intent of the individual that's giving you the advice, what type of advice, how much wisdom do they have in the relationship. And the one thing that I challenge, and, I challenge people on when, they speak about their relationships and the challenges they're going through, is personalities are so different in every relationship. Your personality, your husband or your boyfriend or whoever is, your personalities are so different. And someone else who has a relationship that have been through some of these challenges that you're going through, your personality dictates how you're going to manage through that relationship. It's not always going to be 100% the same. And whatever advice you're supplying, there's only pieces of that. Like, I feel like sometimes we just take everything and we run with it, right? We go right to the man or the girl and say, this is how they're managing and that's how I'm going to manage it.
And I think too, so going back to the girlfriends and the friends and being of a certain situation. So here we go. Being young. So when you're dating young, and again, I'm going back to my time of dating, there was no Facebook, there was no Instagram. It was South Jamaica, Queens. It was Rochdale Village. It was Linden Boulevard. It was at the time New York Boulevard before Guy Arbrewer. And so you kind of dated in your surroundings, so your friends knew the boyfriend or the girlfriend because we all kind of was in that same situation. And a lot of that became, they're so connected to your relationship, because a lot of times then my girlfriend, if I dated the guy, she dated the guy's friend.
That's true.
So now you have this collection, and I'm saying this being young because now let's even take it older.
Right.
When you are in a relationship and you're building and you're growing, now you have these friendships that are involved with your relationship. So then it's like they have their own agenda. Either keep you together or not.
Right.
Because I've had really good girlfriends who my heart and soul, who didn't want me to continue being in a relationship because that relationship disrupted our Friday night hanging out. So don't let me have a little issue. Do you know what I think? Yep, you're right. I didn't even tell you what I thought. But they have their agenda, not being malice, but just being.
Right.
What that connection is. So when you're moving in these realms, so you might lose out on something that's really great for you, because you let the peanut gallery have such a platform in the decision making of what this can or cannot be.
Those attachments.
There's attachments. But now, let's say we are broadening our platform of meeting people. Now, I've never been. I have never. And y'all can check, because I know y'all like to do your fact checks, people out there, and I love it. I've never been on a dating site ever. And the reason being, I think because by the time I was in my relationship, I never knew about it. It wasn't something that was popular. But now moving forward, there's these chat rooms on these dating sites about sharing information about your relationship. So I don't know if anyone knows about that. I would love more to know. How is that where now people, or even let's say Facebook, I do know about that, where people like the relationships that it's complicated, or you see something and then now you have this Facebook forum in your relationship.
Right.
And everybody on Facebook is such a professional, profound people that have so much real clarity into your life. So and again, celebrities deal with that a lot, where the community of the world is now your therapist. What do you think about stuff like that?
Sherry, Lady Wisdom, what are your thoughts on that? Because, I think to your point, there's a lot of opinions and thoughts on that, and everybody is an expert in a relationship. And I feel that no one really isn't an expert on a relationship. That's my opinion.
Gotcha.
I feel everybody is different, and not everybody is built the same, right? We're all individual people. Lady Wisdom, your thoughts on that? Because going through your experience and the wisdom you have, Lady Wisdom, what are your thoughts as far as, people's opinions and thoughts and just the fact that we are in an environment now where everybody is an expert on relationships?
Well, actually, it is just that. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. Everybody's entitled to speak something that they feel, but they need to be mindful of when they're speaking and what they're speaking about. So who we are now, and who we were when we were younger, as T. Rose said, she's been with her husband for more than a lifetime for some people. And so when we learned that maturity makes a difference in how you understand things. So when we're getting advice from people, we're not always getting it from the right people. Not necessarily because we don't want the right advice. We just not sure what wisdom is. You learn as you go along that wisdom is something that comes along with experience. But it is definitely a gift from God. It's not something that you just, walk around with on a note. But for those, I had been in a relationship for over 25 years. What worked for me did not work for someone else. And what worked for someone else did not work for me. But I'm mindful of what I say. So I hear people say, you got bitter Bettys that are out there, and bitter Bettys will help you beat your relationship to a pulp because they're so angry and so bitter for something that may have happened with them. So when you're listening to someone tell you, are they telling you because they're trying to advise you, or they're telling you so that they can be heard? So there's times when we're hearing people speak and they're looking for validation for who they are, or what they've experienced, or they want to be heard because they may not have been heard. So the friendships that, like T-Ro had made a comment about a friendship being in mutual relationship. So there was a time when I was going out, and a friend of mine was going out with the friend of the guy. And in it, it was as if she just needed somebody there. I was just kind of like a seat filler, not necessarily her wanting the relationship to work out with me, because in her mind, who I am is different than who she is, but she wanted better than I had. So some people are not your friends when they're giving you advice either.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Right. That,
When they-
what do the people
That
say?
part.
That part. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because let me tell you, because then you like, wait, I know it's Sunday. Can I say certain things? Okay. So, you be telling your friends, right? Yeah. Man, I'm not sure, and they're like, well, what's the problem? Like, well, I really love him, and he treats me, on a whole, I mean, he takes me out, and my rent was due, and and then I saw a Cash App, and it was the rent money was there, and and the sex is good, and but I'm not sure. And the girl, all I heard was the sex is good and the Cash App. And so now they're like, well, I don't know, girl, because if you don't feel good about that, that might not be for you. No. While they're like over here on the inbox, what are the DMs, right? That's what the young people
DMs.
on the DM talking about. So you got to be mindful, because a lot of times people do want what you have.
Yes.
And when you are chatting, and I know, and I'll say this, I'm not going to go too deep, but I've we've had our sidebar conversations, and I will say Lady Wisdom and I, we've had some conversations, and she is a good spirit. Like, she's like, well, but did you look at it this way? And I think when somebody gives it to you in that feel, so when they say it, let me just say what happens. I'm gonna tell you when I think for me it works, where I say somebody's at least on the righteous path. Doesn't mean they're saying the right thing for me, but they're on the righteous path. Is when it makes you look at yourself.
Yes.
When you do that, let me look in the mirror, or smelling your own stuff. When they make you do that, when they bring that to your attention, you're probably you got something good. There's something good that person means you good. Doesn't mean you harm.
Right.
I want to share, because I first of all, this whole thing we're doing right now is so dope. It's so much better than what we had before. Whoever decided this is amazing. It wasn't me. I can't take credit for the stuff. Whatever this format is, I love it. JC Joan had said, and I know y'all do that, but because it was something I had said, I wanted to bring it back. She said she was afraid to go to her mom and her dad, like I had said in the earlier. Because you don't want to kind of hear what they have to say. And I have a daughter of a certain age, 20, she'll be 20, she's 21, she'll be 22. And I have another one that's 17. And I think when many courts coming up, she came to me, but I will tell you that God is so good and merciful. Thank you. Because sometimes she came to me after the fact. And I want to say, people, I don't know the parenting and everybody, but she just is very fortunate that she didn't get jacked. A lot of times, if you came to us before, you might be able to get that answer. It may not be what you want to hear, but get that answer that would stop you. I know a lot of young women who thank you, mommy, had me very young, but maybe if she had that conversation, well, I'm glad you didn't, because I wouldn't be here. But sometimes, you want to have those conversations, because certain things, your parent does know you. So, but I get it, the fear of going to, and I'd like to, if we can talk about that a little bit. And I know Jane has her sons, that fear
Yep.
of a child coming to you. How can we as those people in young people's lives, and I say the parent, I also say the auntie, because I meant that too, auntie, uncles, but sometimes it's maybe that embarrassment or that fear. What can we do so that comfort space is there, parent, and then
Yep.
not what, I don't know, what anything.
Jane, I think with you having sons, back to what Tiffany Rowe and Lady Wisdom, I know with your children, Jane, with having, and I don't know if the conversation is different between females and males. I mean, I've got 11 nieces and nephews, so I do have a little bit of a, more concern about the girls than the boys, but I do also, look, Auntie doesn't play even with the boys. But Jane, with having boys and daughter-in-laws, when they do they come to you, or what do you feel as far as how engaged you are in those conversations, if those conversations are open with you? Do they feel safe coming?
Yeah, I do try to keep it open. My daughter-in-laws, we do talk more so than the boys. But you know what? Two things I have to say. When you're a widow and you have sons, the dynamics of the relationship changes. And it changes because culturally, being a big Italian family, it's about protecting the mom now. Now, the conversation I've had with my sons is, well, what if I had died? Well, that's different. It's different for men. I don't agree, but that is how they see it at an adult age. All right. In younger ages, when they were little, they always came to me. As they started getting older, it was half and half. But, in their young manhood, they went to their dad for a lot of things. And then he would relay it to me. Or if it was something that they didn't feel comfortable going to him, they would come to me, and then I would relate it to my husband. It's the dynamics of how I feel of the age of your children. And I'm sure Doris and Lady Wisdom would agree. Your dynamics of the relationship with your children, male or female, changes in accordance to the age that they are, or the stage that they are in their relationship. I mean, now as adults, we talk about taxes, we talk about houses, you know what I mean? You talk about
Yeah.
But then there's throw grandchildren in there, and oh, mother of God, I'm like, oh, I can't. You sound just like your father now. You know what I mean? Disciplining your own children. But I think when your children are young, they don't go to the parents. They don't go to the parents for two reasons. They don't want to hear the truth, and they're afraid that the parents will stop them from doing something that ultimately they know is wrong for them.
Me too, preach.
Right?
That was me.
Strong J.
I believe that, but I'm sure Doris and Sherry will agree.
Yeah.
The children, your relationship with your children changes as they get older, but you must lay the foundation. We taught our sons, you respect women. You treat them as if you had a sister. How would you want her treated? No is no. No is no. Period, end. I mean, there were basic rules here that was drilled into them. And, out of all my three sons, I'm proud that they are good, decent human beings. They're good husbands, they're good fathers, and they are, productive human beings to society. So, along the way, did they hate me and my husband? Certainly they did. They didn't want to do, oh my God, why are you doing this to me? I'm moving out. I'm this and that, But when push comes to shove, I do have a rule with my daughter-in-laws. You want to hear it?
Yes.
Yes.
No backsies. No backsies. None. No backsies. You got him now. You keep him, honey. Yeah. That's my rule.
That's good. That's
Okay
good.
with that. I always, if they go, well, we had a fight, I'm like, yeah, okay, but no backsies.
That is so funny.
Yeah. No backsies.
Doris, you have how many children?
I have 7. Mhm.
7 children. Now, think about that dynamic. 7 children, different personalities, different situations, probably in the same type of relationship, concerns or whatever they have going on in their relationships. How do you manage those conversations with your children? And again, I'm sure there's different dynamics there with having 7. How are you managing those type of conversations?
I think I was very approachable as a young mother. I was very approachable, transparent. I showed my children that I had emotions. A lot of parents don't do that. They act like they've been parents since they've been born. I grew with my children. I feel like as long as you're alive, you're going to grow. And so I grew with them. And now we have conversations that I kind of wish we didn't have because they're so comfortable. But it's a good thing. It's a good thing. I didn't really have that with my mother. My mother wasn't very approachable at all. She was very professional. She still is. I mean, she wears a suit for every occasion and heels. So she wasn't very approachable. She was a therapist. She's retired now. So when she was at work, she was a therapist. And when she came home, she was in her room, and then if I wanted to talk to her, it was almost like I had to make an appointment because she was a therapist. And so with my children, I'm not the same type of therapist as my mother. I'm more for autistic children. So she was social work, I'm psychology. So it's a little different. I wasn't a perfect mother, but I believe that my door was open. It still is. We had times coming up where we would watch cartoons on Friday night and we would sleep on the floor. So I think doing those things helps to build that type of relationship so they feel comfortable. I'm human. I come home from work and I say, look, I had a rough day. I need to go in my room, disturb me if it's important, but I just need this. I need to be one with self. And I still say it, although they're adults, I need to be one with self. But I think showing that you're human is a key. And then back to the advice thing. Sometimes the best advice you could give a person is to listen to them so they'll listen to themselves. And I give advice not according to what I would do, because there's a lot of things I would do. I give advice according to where you are in your marriage or relationship and what you should do. But I'm doing it gently and gradually. I'm not going to be the type of person, well, girl, I wouldn't do blah. No, you're never going to hear that from me. Ever. You have to do what's best for you. And I'm going to walk you to it and walk you to it. And that's the type of person that I am. And I think that that's why people come to me for advice. No, I'm not married. I'm not even attached. But I think that I've made myself approachable and that I can get you to where you're trying to go. I know I talk a lot of stuff on Facebook for those of you who follow me. But at the end of the day, we love your Doris. It's a little sounding board over there on your ass. But you just have to. Okay.
I think that's so funny. Let me ask you this then. And again, this was so interesting. Because here I am. I'm an only child. So thinking about relationships and you have your children have siblings. That conversation again, for those who do have siblings and those who have a larger base of a foundational family, do the advice on relationships, do you feel you go back and forth to your siblings or to that cousin family member that's very tight? Is how does that work? Or also maybe even adding for Doris, had your children seen maybe the older siblings' relationship and has made decisions and they're moving how they move about in relationships based on that?
That's a toughie because 4 of my, so they're right there together. the younger one may be
Mhm.
older than the older one. It's like they're right there together. So I don't know if I
Yeah,
can.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
Um,
think I
go ahead,
I have
Diane.
a lot. I have a lot of siblings.
Hmm.
A lot. Um, but the one thing that everybody has in common is that we need to be mindful of the examples that we get in front of us, right? So while we're listening, while we're looking or searching, or maybe not sure about something that we're going through or experiencing, or may soon to experience or have had to experience, I pay attention to what you do. So I'm going to be mindful of how you, okay. So with my children, the one thing I made very clear with my children was I could only deal with the truth. And the reason I deal with the truth is because I could defend it. I
Mm,
can only defend the truth. I could fight for the truth. I can defend the truth because it's the truth. Lies, on the other hand, the hardest thing about a lie is that you got to remember who you told it to, what lie you told them, and how it snowballs.
Right.
Like it's kind of like, so with my children, what I always wanted to have with them is a open rapport.
mhm,
Like, I need you to be able to come to me no matter what's going on in your life. I'd rather you come to me after you've made some rough decisions or poor decisions, or the worst decisions you feel in your life are the worst decisions ever. But know that no matter what your decision was at that time, I support you, because I'd rather you come home than be out in the street
mm,
and getting the advice out there. I had to give my little brother this when he's raising his son. I said to my brother, I said, listen, you need to make sure you discipline your child at home so the streets don't have to do it.
mm,
Now, just because you've been in a relationship for 80 years, 50 years, 30 years, doesn't mean that how you kept your relationship will work for me,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
I have two daughters and I have a son. They are all young adults. Um, there was a point where I'm sure when I said no to something, because the one thing I didn't sugarcoat, my lips are never full with sugar. So I don't coat anything, not for people that are outside my home, let alone the people that were raised in my home.
Mhm.
My son comes to me and my daughters come to me. They limit what they come to me for. But I realized that my relationship with their father was the biggest example of a relationship and the dynamics of a relationship,
mm,
right? So I don't believe I could teach my son how to be a man, but I could teach him how to treat a woman, right?
mm,
So I had to keep that in mind. I have these young mothers around me that want to say, I'm mommy and daddy, and I could teach my son how to be a man. Wrong. It's important that you have strong male figures around, whether it's their grandfather, their uncles, their dads. Um, but don't try to take on a role that's truly not yours.
mm,
Think about what you're saying. I had a long-term relationship with my ex-husband. I've experienced divorce. I don't condone divorce. I don't think anybody, a marriage wasn't set up for divorce. But the Bible teaches us that when the heart is already hardened, you got to let it go, because nothing I say or do is going to change that person's feelings for me, right? So
mm,
sometimes we try to get something from somebody because we expect them to be us. Well, I expect you to do this, that, and the third. I expected you to say this, and I expected that. That's the problem. We put expectations on it. Teach your children that I'm your parent first. I'm a woman first and foremost, is what I teach my daughters. I'm a woman, but I'm not superhuman. I've had
mm,
some good experiences, some bad experiences. The longest relationship I've ever been in was with their father. I didn't badmouth him even when we broke up. It ended poorly. I'm gonna leave it that way. But I didn't badmouth him because he was my choice. We suffer. We deal with consequences for every choice we make. World, y'all need to know that we deal with the consequences, and the one thing that we deal with is knowing that consequences may not be what we'd like. Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I had
yeah,
to tell. I had to have my oldest daughter said to me, "Mom, I don't know why this is so hard for you. You've taught me and my sister and my brother to be strong. But when it comes to you and what you're experiencing, you seem to struggle with it. I didn't want you to experience what I experienced, is why I teach you to be strong, but not so strong that you don't come to me." Right?
Right.
You want your children to have such a good rapport with you. I have the kind of relationship with my children that my children send their adult friends to me. You want somebody to help you with that? Talk to my mom.
Mm, mm.
So I don't sugarcoat my lips, but I do Fenty coat them. So let me put some Fenty.
I'm curious about something, because we're talking about the parents, kind of informing or, working with their children through their relationships, right? We got some single mothers on here.
Right.
Let's go the other way.
I want to say something too. I think the brothership, first Sundays of the month, I think
Yes.
the brothership, I would like to hear them discuss the feeling of women saying they are the dads and the mom, I'd like to hear that process, how that process is for the brothership. It's so wonderful that we have that opportunity. And I think another piece, because we're talking about who do we go to, and Lady Wisdom mentioned about divorce, and obviously there's a lot of biblical conversations in reference to that. And I would like to, is it acceptable then to be able to go to your ministers and your pastors? So we have these, let's say you grew up where you're not supposed to have sex till you're married, or you're not supposed to get a divorce, and all these the rules that we hear. And I don't, and again, I always tell you, honest to God, I don't know scripture verbatim to say, because I'll read a scripture that tells me something, and then when I read two more numbers down, it starts to wave back into something that I think that feels maybe better for me or understanding. So but what I know you were getting ready to go into the single. When you are single, that piece, like there's so many moving, this is such a great topic. I hate that it's, I don't want to, it's so many moving parts with it, as far as who do you go to. And you have these people that are supposed to be those go-tos. So if every time you go to your pastor, when you go to your pastor, is their job to always bring it back to scripture? And does that really work?
Yeah. So I guess.
Well, it depends, right?
Yeah.
With scripture, right? You could be, I think the one thing that people forget is that your pastor, your apostle, your preacher, your
bishop,
rabbi, your imam, whomever you have faith with, they're human. There's human parts to them. Yep. So what they do when they're coming to you, are they necessarily coming to you from the spiritual man? Or are they speaking to you from their human man? The one that has had some experience, right? Doris is a psychologist, and I'm sure Doris hears this. I'd rather speak to somebody that's been through some things rather than somebody that's just opened a book.
Yeah, but don't. What? I'm sure Doris, when you counsel, that's a great question, Sherry, because looking to Doris for this answer, you're a human, you're a woman, you're a single mom, and you're a psychologist. So when someone comes to you, who's really qualified to give that advice? you, because that's one of the questions was in the dialogue, right? Who is really qualified? Does it depend on the situation, the person coming? How do you sift through that, I guess, or navigate through that when you have someone in front of you asking, who do I go to for this?
Okay, I have to cut you off. I am for autistic children. That is my
Oh,
specialty.
okay.
So that's my specialty. But on a personal level, you have to go to the person that you know has your best interest at heart, the person that knows you. And you go to the person that's going to handle you. You have to be honest with yourself. Do you want to know the truth? Do you want to be coddled? Do you want that pacifier? Do you
Right.
want that special blanket? Or do you want to know the truth? And then we go to people depending on their delivery. You can say anything in this world to anybody in this world, but it's all in how you deliver. And so that's
Right.
really important.
Right.
If you go to somebody that's like, for instance, with my mother, she was kind of cold. I always used to say that her heart ran on batteries. Like you just got to go in there and change them sometimes. But now it's different. She's older. But when you talk to her, she's compassionate. She's not going to just shoot you down. You have to go to people that'll do that for you. And it's not about her pampering me, because she'll say, because she knows me. Like you said, she knows me. So she knows how to handle me. And we need to go to people that know how to handle us.
I actually recently, I've been on a quest. I've been on a self-love quest, and some healing quests. So thank you, Doris. My 2 words, I always have my takeaway. If people don't know, when I'm on Sistership, we do Sundays. I'm actually getting my free therapy. I don't know about everybody else. So I write down my work. Delivery and sensors. I love that. Thank you. So I actually I traveled with some people that I do know, but in that travel, I've been meeting other women that I did not know prior to. However, what I will say in that is that all of the people that I've been traveling with, they're at a frequency of being open to the healing and open to the information. So that being said, I found myself that, and even with the sistership, putting myself in a very vulnerable state, but walking in feeling I'm in a safe space. I think when you get to a certain point, you can kind of tell you're in a safe space to have this dialogue. And the sharing, and these are women, a lot of women that don't know me. They'd have to have Googled me to really know me. They don't even, it's not like this where we've broken bread. And I would say when you are around like frequencied people, I won't even say like-minded, because you kind of sometimes want to hear different approaches. So the mind might not be in that same journey, but like frequency where I want to see the best for you because I want to see the best for myself. And when I've put some information out in that forum, and I have to say, on a whole, I was receiving not everything that was comfortable, but definitely I was receiving pieces that elevated my thoughts, my sensories, my sensories to be, again, and I'll go back to Lady Wisdom, where I'm putting that reflection on me. Like when you say, well, they need to know. No, I need to know. I started doing that piece, but getting advice from this core, where your mind is, this core, where it's kind of a little bit elevated than who you are, that core. And sometimes, going back to what we discussed earlier, it may not be the spiritual guider who has, could you imagine, like, you're let's say married now. You're married, and the pastor that married you, there's churches, and we all know churches that everybody in the church is breaking up. Well, You know what I'm saying? So then it's like that situation there doesn't seem like that is the person you should be getting advice from. And then do they have a scorecard to try to keep you together? Because the more marriages they can keep together, the better their situation looks.
Right.
They may not be giving you accurate information. Same
Right.
thing, maybe a therapist. You know, not all, but again, when you start going into, I think, places where maybe there's a business attachment to the success,
Mm.
then you might be talking to someone that has more of a monetary relationship on why this should make sense than not.
They're invested for a certain reason, right? Or season.
Or
season.
Question, something we did not say, and I see your king is on here, and he's always so supportive of what you're doing and what you're about. Should we not then go to our significant other for that advice? Is that too close? Is it too close? Or is that exactly who we should be having these transparent conversations with?
Well, if you're
Wait a minute. Wait. Somebody just walked in. Come here. Come say hi. Come say hi. Because of course he heard that.
There goes that long relationship as well. But I think it's so this is the deal. At the end of the day, you have to have a very open dialogue with your significant other. I'm going to say when somebody comes to me, and let me take it back to people giving advice and who's, qualified to give it. I'm not qualified to give anybody any advice other than tell you need to know what you want in your relationship. Who are you? What do you want? What are you looking for in a relationship? You have to know thyself. I always say that you got to know what you want. There's nothing I can tell you about your relationship, and you could tell me everything under the sun. There's nothing I could tell you about your relationship unless you look within yourself on what you want and expect out of your relationship. Because if you're not getting that, you have your answer. I don't need to tell you that. And I've been through experiences. I have 3 sisters, all younger than me. And I've been through experiences with all of them. And, when I got involved in one situation, which honestly, I was ready to put them down under the earth. I said, you know what? You keep going back to that situation. There's nothing more I could tell you. I love you, but I got to love you from a distance because I can't tell you what to do in your relationship if you accept certain things. You have to know what you want, you personally want. I'm not going to give you advice. I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to come back to you and I'm going to say, well, what do you want? What are you looking for? Don't look for advice from me. But now going back to your significant other, whatever's going on in your relationship, whatever challenges you feel are there, whatever, concerns you have, you should be vocalizing them in your relationship because at the end of the day, it's between the two of you. It's nobody else's relationship but you two. Married or, whatever. I say married because, my husband and I've been married, it's going to be 10 years, but we've been together 21 years. You have to have open dialogue with your significant other so that there's that back and forth on where some of your opportunities are. And there's a way to kind of have those conversations where people don't feel slighted or offended or whatever the case may be. It has to be in a very calm manner and have those discussions. You should be having conversations with your significant other because outside of that, nobody else can solve your relationship but you.
You know what? I want to say yes. Everybody who's on the chat and Mama C, I love you. I miss you. I really do. I want Sapphire, who is fire. I love your calm approach to how
Oh, this is the Italian in me.
clutch my pearls, love. We should have transparency in our conversation with a calm monotone voice. When you be like, look. And that's real talk, because it's so funny. So Sean and I, again, because I was in Ghana, so I'm woke now, right? That's what happens when people go somewhere. Anyway, so we're talking, and I'm trying to be this person that has this conversation with my husband about things that are going on in my mind about our relationship. And he says, like, remember that time? And I was like, I'll just make something up. So he asked me a question, whatever the question is. And he said, and I said, well, Tiffany, it looks like it's going to rain. And you were like, no, it's not going to rain. It's not going to rain. It looks nice outside. Da, da, da. And I looked at him have this conversation about me. And I said, wait a minute. I didn't respond to you that way. But perception is way more important than the reality. So when you're having these, going to your significant other for that, your relationship, and who should you talk to about your relationship, and it's so good that you're able to talk to your significant other about your relationship. Sometimes their interpretation of whoever you are in that subject is so different than whatever you thought you were bringing to the table.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know Doris says she's a therapist for children with autism. But I mean, and her mom was a therapist, and we have such amazing people here. And I know Mama C, she's definitely, I could sit on my couch and just listen to her tell me what to do every day, all day. What about mediators? What about that? What you think?
It's okay. Like I said, it's about censoring, but I don't feel like this. It's so private. The relationship is very private. I think that if you go outside of the relationship to talk to somebody, you should not bring that back into the relationship that you're in, because that's a terrible thing to do. I think that people who are having issues should sit quiet for a minute. Stop every time you have a problem. Sit down for a minute. I keep a journal. So just sit quietly for a minute. Everything can't be held in, but think before you put it out there, because once it's out there, it's out there. So now you're hearing a person that was in your ear when they're not in your ear. And so you have to be just be careful with who you are allowing into your relationship, into your personal space, into your head.
I love that, Doris. I love the fact that you said sit quiet for a moment, because in a lot of situations you're reacting immediately, because again, back to what Tiffany Rose said, at that moment, what you might be saying, they're perceiving differently than what your intention is, right? Because there's emotion behind that, versus taking the emotion out and sitting down and having a serious dialogue. And yes, I got that whole, Italian, fiery, spew, boom out there. But, when it's a serious conversation that needs to be had, you have to take that moment to reflect on how, you're feeling. Secondly, how that person is perceiving what's going on. And then have the conversation. If it's really that, serious, it needs to be, you sit down and have the conversation. But as far as mediators are concerned, again, I go back to, it depends on the person you trust, and their intentions. And anybody could be a mediator. Anybody can act like a mediator. But again, it has to be the person that you value, that you respect, that you see how they operate, to trust that they're going to have your best interest and your husband's best interest, or your mate's best interest in mind, both of you, not just, and hold you accountable as well. Which, back to Lady Wisdom, she does that for, for people. she'll say, hey, you know, you got to look at it, you know, you said it. And that's exactly what I get from her as well. Is, well, could you look at it this way? Because, you know, there's always two people in a relationship, and there's both sides of the coin. You know, so there's different perspectives coming from the different individuals.
I always try when people come to me. So am I that person that you can come to in your relationship? I feel pretty good about who I am in my friends' lives. I feel pretty good. I don't like to be all the time because kind of what you said. I mean, let's just say this: if it's low to mid-range challenge, where a glass of wine and some honey girl child please is part of the dialogue, then it's all good. When it goes into something where it's medium to high level, meaning I'm about to get a divorce, I feel abused, those levels of conversation, I may not be the friend, because anything with abuse in it, I'm telling you, my conversation is going to be run. That could be PTSD of my own life. That could just be what my moral compass is, and I'm not going to be quiet. I'm going to be loud in reference to that. But, you know, oh, I'm so damn sick of it not cleaning up. And, you know, they're taking advantage of the fact, you know, that I do this. I'm that friend. I'm that girlfriend that can do that with you, because whatever your decision is going to be post that, when I see your significant other, I still going to have all kind of love. I am going to tell you, if he's doing something or she is doing something that is breaking your heart, I'm not going to probably like them anymore. I'm not going to have that in me. And even if you get back to them, I'm probably not going to like them. And because I love hard. I love hard on my people. So
I think one thing that we have to be mindful of when we're talking to people, relationships are personal. Social media has caused major damage in a lot of them.
Yes.
It has become people's personal diaries. They have war with the words on social media going on. They're not happy, this, that, and the third. So if you pay attention to sometimes when people are having conversations and they're conversing about their spouse, if you that depends, and this is how people are going to come to you and give you the advice that they're going to decide how they're going to give you advice. It's going to be based on what you tell them about that person, right? So if you always go to somebody and all you telling them is about the negativity in your relationship and not ever tell them any of the good stuff, they see your relationship in a bad light.
Yes.
And so when they're advising you, technically they got a bad taste already. And the taste is kind of like you served it up as an appetizer by telling them all the negative things. As far as good advice, I don't necessarily want to give you any advice. I challenge you. I'm not going to challenge your relationship. I'm not going to tell you how your relationship will work better. I would rather just challenge you to look at you better. The one thing that we have not learned is how to mature enough to be in a relationship where we know our self-worth and don't lose it. You know, we have conversations where we talk about we got lost in this relationship or we've gotten lost in that relationship, and I don't even know who myself is. And so when you first get into relationships, the representative comes out. So you sent your best foot forward, and then you want to get mad when every time he saw you, you brushed your teeth and combed your hair. And then after now you know you're in a relationship with him, you got complacent and you became a bushwoman. You stop shaving your arms and stuff, and
Well,
you
I'm so thankful that I've been
actually
with him
don't
so
care if
long.
he sees you with your wig or your weave out. You don't necessarily put on makeup anymore, and you don't smell good all the time, right? So it's kind of like, so am I going to come to you for advice? Hell
Lady
no.
Wisdom, I don't know what you're talking about because
Now, I don't speak that for everybody. Now, you got some women that no matter what the situation or the circumstances are, Miss T.
I don't
Rowe.
know what that means. You don't. You mean to tell me there's ladies that fart in front of their men?
And don't say excuse me.
This is the real deal. This is me, honey, from head to toe. The real. Wait,
Well, I
You
mean,
mean
you
you
always
pass
want to
gas?
give your
gas.
man the best of you, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what you constantly expect of him, right? You want him to put his best foot forward at all times. You got to do the same thing.
Well, and that's real talk. You know, like again, I think we had a show before. We've had so many amazing shows. That you know, hey, where you know, like I say, the first year is the representative. You know, you meet the representative. Again, Sean
Mhm.
smelling amazing with jupe all over his body from from his top of his head to the sole of his foot. And Vaseline on the lips where mwah, mwah, mwah. Now, you'll get some ash. You'll walk in and you're like, mm. And so the relationship has, I guess, that's elevation. However, that being said, being true to yourself, you kick the jewel, you kicked a real jewel. Challenge you. I wrote it down. Challenge to look at yourself, your self-worth. So when you are getting advice from people, and they're your friends, the same friend. Is somebody hearing feedback? Because I'm hearing a little
Yeah,
feedback.
I'm hearing it too.
And you're with your friends. And if your friend is doing the same thing you're doing, that might not be, meaning their self-worth is at the same level as yours. Let's say that. You know what I mean? And that's okay. That's not judgment. Please, that ain't judgment, because it's not. It really is not. Again, elevating who you have that dialogue with, and again having that elevation with someone who's going to challenge you. And I like that. Challenge you to look at yourself. And Doris stated journaling. Do you know, when I listen to like the reunion shows of these housewives shows, and then they talk later and they say, when I see myself back,
Oh, yeah.
when I start to realize what I'm doing wrong, or what I'm embarrassed about something. And so since we don't have a camera following us everywhere in the world, journaling your day, journaling your conversations, journaling the things that have happened. When you go back and you look, imagine looking at that your mom gives you your high school things you wrote in high school, and you like, Dad, I could have wrote that better. You go back and you say, you've elevated, and you can see how you either have elevated, or say to yourself, I could have done that better now that I'm really looking at myself. So I think between journaling and challenging yourself, Doris and Lady Wisdom's comments, I think that allows us to, when we do find someone to converse with, or to meditate with, or to allow them into our intimate space of vulnerability in our relationships, we will be more of a vessel that can receive nuggets and jewels, versus being a person that's receiving what we want to hear, what makes us feel good, what makes us continue to be the victim or the hero or the righteous one. You know, what do you think?
Oh, I think Jane's having problems.
Yeah, I was having some problems too. It's a little delay there.
Hi, mommy. I see my mom's on there.
I like the comment she made though. More mindful of your thoughts and actions.
Yeah.
It does,
Yeah.
right?
Be
So
more
back to what,
mindful.
yeah.
Be more mindful, because I mean, and we, you know, we spent a lot of time, and I do have to jump
Yep.
off, but you know, there's also the relationships between the friends. Do we go to the other friend in the group and talk about the friend? You know, because that is the other piece. Do we get so habitual in some probably bad behaviors that when we have these conversations, we have a bunch of sidebar conversations with people and start breaking up? Or I see Jane shook her head. I think
No,
Jane got
no,
woo! Go Spice. Ah, man.
Yeah, her but you know, Tifro, I think you're right. I mean, when we talk about relationships, getting out of the partnerships of men and women, or women and women, men and men, you know, whatever your, you know, relationship is, and getting into the friend zone. I think it's obviously common. Everybody talks about, you know, whatever, so and so, or, you know, hey, I'm having, you know, an issue from here, there, with this friend or this husband or this mother or my father or whatever the case may be, right? And they talk to whoever, someone, friend, family member, whatever have you. I think that, again, it goes back to the relationships and who you trust enough to give you solid, real advice, and who holds you accountable as well, right? Because again, it's not always about just that individual that you're speaking of. It's about you as well. And, you know, Lady Wisdom has said that. Doris has said that. I mean, I think when we speak about relationships in general, it's a two-way conversation, right? It's two people. And everybody has an opportunity within those environments. Again, the question is, what are your expectations of the person that you're interacting with or you have a relationship with? And what is good versus bad? What is, you know, are we patient with people? Are we holding them accountable for things that we're not holding ourselves accountable for? There's, you know, again, I think regardless of who you're in a relationship with, it's the same premise as far as understanding what it is that we expect out of that person, and being honest with ourselves, and honest with them, you know, as far as, you know, what they're doing, that may not be, you know, you may not care for. But that's to me, again,
I'm gonna sing with that, and I'm gonna sing with that background.
I don't think we'll be able to hear you with that. That was terrible.
That being said, I want to hear, but I have to run.
Yep.
We have some nice weather. We lost so many days because we had the ice storm, and I have some people that want to buy homes. So I love you guys. I'm going to try to click on, but I know we're going to be, I don't know if the timing will hit me back on, but I will do my best. I love you guys. Sistership. I miss Happy New Year to everyone I hadn't seen. Relationships. I just say, yo, mind your business.
That's plain and simple right there. Tough Tiffany Rowe, thank you so much. We'll see you soon. We'll see you soon. But back to what, you know, what she said. I mean, I found that, you know, again, when we talk about relationships, what are your thoughts? I mean, when you speak about friendships, outside of, you know, your partnerships with, you know, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, whatever, wife, what are your thoughts on that as far as advice is concerned with your friends? You're going through a challenge with one of your girlfriends or one of your, male friends. Do you have a conversation with another friend about it?
I think you have to be careful of who you choose to go to.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes, as to piggyback on, I don't know if Doris or Sherry said it, sometimes those friends can sabotage your very relationship
Mm-hmm.
that you're having.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you need to be very, very careful who you bring into that fold. And also, what if your partner doesn't feel there is a problem and you do?
Mm.
Then that's when
You know,
counseling. That's when you need to get some
right.
counseling.
But what if he doesn't? And I've had friends come to me about that, and I've always said to them, well, then you go to counseling, because that would at least help you navigate through a
Mm.
situation that you might not understand. Maybe that counselor will see it through his eyes or her eyes, whoever your significant other is. I really think it's a good idea to have a third party sometimes to just observe and try to navigate you through and bring you to what's that saying go, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make
Can't
him
make
drink.
them drink.
Yeah,
Mhm.
in my family, the saying was always, don't poop where you eat, basically.
Mhm.
Okay, so there's that. Yeah.
I pooped where I ate, so just and it worked out. So, but that's very, very rare, very rare.
Hey! Stop
But
it.
I think again, I like the fact that you said, because a lot of situations that I hear with marriages, and I'm on like this marriage Facebook page, and I see all these comments about husband and wives and talking about their relationships and joking around in some instance, but there's some truth behind the joke that's out there that they communicate about their spouses. Um, Counseling. I mean, Doris, you said it. Counseling. That's when you have to get counseling. Is it okay? And Jane, you said it. Go counseling. You go to counseling if that partner does not want to go.
Mhm.
You go to counseling. Is that helpful though?
I think it might be
It is
helpful, but
helpful.
I think it also creates a divide. Like, I think it could be a
Mm,
problem too, because there's a division there. You're getting help, and then you're coming back here being my therapist because you're seeing a therapist. And so I think that
mm,
it's a double-edged sword. It's
Yeah. I could tell you,
I
I
mean,
dated.
counseling. Go
Oh, go
ahead.
ahead,
I'm
Sherry.
sorry, Jane.
No, go ahead,
Go
Sherry.
ahead.
Go ahead,
No, I
Sherry.
was going to say, I dated a reformed alcoholic for a while, and I ended up going to Al-Anon
Mm,
to understand. Um, Even his sense of humor was different from anything I've ever experienced in my life,
mm,
and especially my dating life. So my friend said to me, "Why don't you just go to a couple Al-Anon meetings?"
mm-hmm,
And oh my gosh, it was so helpful for me to understand. Like, he wasn't divulging to me a lot of what was going on, what brought him to become an alcoholic, but I could understand it better through the eyes of the group that helped me understand where he was at.
mm,
But
Um,
what you said was key, Jane. You said that you went to Al-Anon and Al-Anon helped you.
mhm,
Here's the thing. If you're going to counseling, go to counseling to help you, not
mm,
to change or fix the other person or what you think is incorrect or wrong or not what you expect from that person. If you go into counseling, find out what it is. If you find a pattern in your relationships, if you've had more than one relationship and they turned out similar, you have to realize you're the common denominator. So,
mm,
what is it about you that you may need help in versus assuming that it's the other person in the relationship? Because counseling only helps when you're ready to receive it,
yes.
mhm,
right?
mhm.
So, I'm not going to counseling to find out how I can fix you. I need counseling for my. I learned as I got older that my maturity level was different than a lot of people I've been around. Right? So we could be the same age, you could be older than me, and I just have more maturity than you. Common sense is not so common anymore. Relationships are that. If you're in a relationship, you have to relate to the other person. You have to find out who that person is. Like, I thought I knew my ex-husband, and I realized I couldn't know him because I didn't know me totally. And the hardest part about that is when my relationship, with a breakdown happened in my relationship, I automatically assumed it was all my fault and I have to take responsibility. And you know why? Because that was what was projected on me. If you was doing this, or if you knew that, or if you paid attention to this.
Who projected that on you? I want to know. Who told you or made you feel that way? Was it just
not
you?
Only did my ex do that, but other people that were around me, right? So the same thing you said, we have to be mindful of who we get advice from. So people will tell you what they want you to know about you. So what I learned to do, and I learned it because I got quiet, is I learned about me. I had to know my likes and my dislikes. I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to give you a playbook on what I like and what I don't like, because the one thing I'm very well aware of, if you really want to be a part of me and get to know me, let's talk about male and female relationships. If a man truly wants something, say it's a boat, a motorcycle, or a car, trust and believe he's going to learn those specs from the inside out. He's going to know how much gas it takes. He's going to make sure he cleans it and fuels it properly. He's going to make sure that he gets the right oil to go inside that vehicle. He's going to make sure the parts are the right parts, and he's going to get the best of the best. When a man pursues you, it's because that's what he's looking for, the best part of you, and he's going to learn that part of you while he's pursuing you. So I'm not going to chase you down. But I know this, if I don't know me, it's nothing that I could say to you. I seek counseling. I will seek counseling for myself. I have to help me before I can help you. I don't want a project. So that's the one thing that we got to learn. We got to be careful of getting advice from people that don't mind taking on projects. Potential doesn't pay the bills.
I love
Potential doesn't make a relationship work. Well, he's good looking. Well, good looks don't mean he's a nice guy.
You got that right.
Like, he could be fine and a fiend. He could be good looking and be a gentle crazed. Like, it's just really what you have to know you enough to invest in yourself so that your return is full, right? So when we make an investment, we are always looking for a return on that investment. So invest in you so that what you give out, you can get back. I'm not saying that's perfect for everybody, but when I'm going to talk to you, the reason I'm talking to you the way I'm talking to you is because this is something that I've experienced and I've been through.
Right. And that worked for
I don't
you.
want advice from somebody that tells me, it don't matter what he said or he did. It's all your fault. Girl, do you? I'm not taking the blame anymore. I have to take responsibility and accountability for Sherry. And I want the man that God has for me to be accountable and responsible for himself as well. So I need maturity. So we got to be careful of what we out there, what we give to the universe. Y'all do know that we get some of that stuff back.
Yes.
Like those women that say, I don't need a man.
Oh.
Be careful what you put out in the universe. Be very, very careful what you put out in the universe. The universe will answer you. I know people from experience. I've known them for over 40 years. And I've heard them say it since I was a young girl. I don't need a man. I could take care of myself. I don't need a man. I used to always say to them, be careful what you say. And in the last 40 years or so, they have not had a man of their own and not had a man. Nobody wants to end up alone.
Yeah.
Nobody.
That's a good point. You know, and going back to what you said, Sherry, as far as yourself, your first relationship is with you. Your first relationship is with you.
Absolutely.
What do you all think about? So there are people that say write a list, right? There's people that advised write a list of what you want in a relationship. Go down that list and figure out what it is that you're looking for in a relationship. Should it be looking for what you want to feel, what you need, versus just saying, here's the assets, like, you know, oh, he got to look a certain way. He's got to have an X amount of bank account. He's got to boom, 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 boom. I think there's a lot of disconnect in how people view what they're looking for from, because I've heard, you know, I had a girlfriend of mine say, you know, I got a list of things that I want that I'll accept. Are they doing a disservice to themselves?
I would say so in a lot of cases. I think that you're looking for something that you're not willing to give. So it gives you the right. You have to be willing to give what it is that you want. And somebody that's dealing with a full deck of cards is not going to go for somebody that's just looking for what's on that list. 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get everything that's on that list because you're creating this picture of perfection and it does not exist.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I have a list and I tossed out my list. So there's something that I know from experience.
Thank you, Doris. Thank you, Doris.
I mean, you also, I mean, it's okay to set boundaries, right? But he could have all of the material. You got to know the balance, right? Because like you said, there's some people that are looking for cars and jewelry and the material things. He could be a rich asshole. He doesn't.
This is true.
Excuse me
This
for
is
saying
true.
it that way, but he doesn't necessarily, you know, he's got the good looks and the nice muscles and
And a
have
narcissist.
and be a plain a-hole. Like, you know,
Yeah, I went
I
out
don't
with
know.
a
I
guy
think for
one
me,
time.
you just
Yeah, I went out with a guy one time and he was very tall. And those of you that know me, I'm a little short. And I remember we were on the dance floor and we were dancing and I said, I could feel his mouth moving, you know, and I finally looked up and I said, what are you saying? He goes, listen, I love that you're short because I could see all the other women above you, over you.
wow.
Oh, yeah. I said, okay, listen, have a great time on the dance floor. Yeah. I just grabbed my purse and left. Yeah. I'm too old to tolerate that crap. Yeah. No. Mm-mm. Yeah.
Let's talk gut instinct, because that's advice, right? You're advising yourself. You're feeling a certain way.
Yeah.
Gut instinct. That to me is a level of advice you're giving yourself that you're not paying attention to sometimes. How important is that gut instinct?
It's important.
Very important. Oh, yeah. Especially as you get older, I think.
It's that uh-oh feeling, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
But some people don't trust themselves and they don't want to know the truth. So they're going to ignore that sign. I call that knowing the truth but believing all the lies. They know it, but they're not trying to go with
Yeah.
it.
Wait, say that again, Doris, because I love that line.
Yeah.
Knowing the truth, but
believing all the lies, knowing the truth, but believing all the lies. Because it's right in your face. It's right there. It's right there, but you want to believe what you want to believe, which is not good for you most of the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Some people are insecure, right? Some people might have that gut instinct, but they, you know, maybe failed in a previous relationship or they feel they failed in a previous relationship. So they ignore that instinct because they want so bad to be in that relationship that, to your point, they ignore the signs and they continue on. And then here you are in another situation that's not healthy for either party. So yeah, I mean, that's, again, your first advice is your gut instinct, what you're feeling about the person that you are with. If something is knocking at that door, you need to listen to it because it's telling you something before it even happens. I'll go into social media for a moment because we have what we call unsolicited advice. Or is it unsolicited? We put our business out on the street. Like I said, I see a marriage page and I feel that people use that as a platform for getting advice from others. Married, when I get it, I mean, everybody's in a relationship and they want to hear other people's opinions or whatever have you. Is it really unsolicited? I mean, there's people that put stuff out there on Facebook, and then when they get a response, they say, well, that's none of your business.
Oh, that's ridiculousness.
People just want a sounding board, and social media may not be the place for that sounding board because the more people you have around you, the more advice to see. So those people that are doing it, they probably just want a good best friend.
Mm-hmm. That's and I bring that up because there's so many people that I think, again, the social media platform has opened it's such a huge, vast tool of interactions that sometimes people don't understand that whatever you're putting out there, as far as your relationships are concerned, you're gonna get some feedback from individuals because either they feel an obligation to respond to it or they're feeling a certain way on what you're dealing with and they're going to respond to it. So be careful what you put out there. I agree the whole sounding board thing,
and
but then expect what's coming back.
But isn't that the purpose for some people actually going onto social media so that they could get a response or a reaction out of people so that somebody could hear them or whatever it is that they got going on? They're looking for attention in some way, because if you don't want no unsolicited advice and you don't want people to say nothing and you telling people to mind their business, then why are you giving it to them? Social media is a platform for a lot of people for you to tell somebody, well, mind your business. Nope, you put it, that is my business. You put it out there.
Yeah. Be very careful what you put out there in the universe, I say, because something's going to come back. It's like a boomerang effect. And you're going to get the advice that either you don't care to listen to or what have you, but, just be aware that it's coming. So I was looking at actually what Mama C wrote. Actually, hold on one second. I just got a whole new posting here that Ms. Bling threw out there that took place in a retro gym, and a conversation that was had between two. Who had this conversation? Was it
two women? It was women.
Two women were having a conversation. Cheating. This is I know this had something to do with cheating, and it's such a huge thing. I can't read through this whole thing, so whoever posted it's going to be very hard to read through everything without continuing the conversation here, unless somebody has a perspective on what transpired.
I do. I read it. Yeah, I read it previously when it first posted. So the younger girl was asking the two women who were married, one 40 years, one 58 years, what was the longevity? How did the longevity of the marriage continue that long? And both women said men cheat, and you must accept that.
I hate hearing that. I really do hate hearing that.
Let me read this. The man will cheat on you, and you got to be okay with that because men are not monogamous creatures. That was a woman. I cannot expect him to give that up. This is the wife, okay? To stop being himself because he married me. Plus, I want him to be happy.
Oh,
I
you
don't,
see,
There's something seriously wrong.
when I read that the first time it was put out there, I actually was speechless. I was
Well,
like,
I am kind of taken aback. I mean,
yeah.
and I'm not surprised because I've seen people say that. Men are always going to be, and the brothership. We got the brothership, so we could definitely have a conversation around that with the brothership. But I feel that it does a disservice to a relationship, a real relationship, a healthy relationship. Giving someone advice and telling them that men cheat and it's okay, and it is what it is. That's just human nature. I don't know what is wrong with people when they say that. It's because you're not willing to come to the table and have a healthy relationship that you're allowing that to happen. I'm sorry, that's just the way I see the world.
Well, she went on to tell the young girl, I want him to be happy. All I ask for him to is respect me and do it right. No women knocking on my door. So the young girl said to her, so you're both in an open relationship? And the woman said, no, I don't cheat.
That's look.
Now, these are two women, 40 years and 58 years old.
To each his own, but if that's what you want to do and you're okay with that, which I know they're not okay with that, they're just saying that just because there's no other outlet possibly for them.
Yeah, but why give a young girl that advice? I
That's
guess
ridiculous.
is my. I mean, okay, I agree. If that works for them, man, go for it. But to advise that to a young woman, I think is wrong. It's wrong. You might want to
Misery
say,
likes
this
company.
is how my marriage works. This is what makes us happy, but it might not be for everybody.
But
But-
she's been
Misery,
Yeah.
misery likes company.
But to
Okay.
tell her this is just the way it is, men are not monogamous, I don't believe that. I don't.
I
yeah, but
don't-
we can't expect more from her because she's dysfunctional. So
Exactly.
she has offered to somebody that's being functional.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but that worked for their relationship. So, in other words,
That's true.
like what works for your relationship doesn't necessarily work for me, right?
Right.
So, some advice that you get, everything that somebody advises on whomever it is that's giving you advice, take what you need and throw the rest away.
Okay.
Yes.
That
You
makes
don't
sense.
have to necessarily take the advice of everybody that is soliciting it or offering it off to you. You can listen to them, and what don't work for you, don't take it.
And
And
that
just
goes back to what you want in your relationship. I mean, and that's why I say it always goes back to the base factor of what you want out of your relationship and who you are as a person. If you accept that and feel that's okay and whatever, hey, to each his own. There's people
So-
in open relationships.
But just to
Keep it
top this off, this conversation, to let you know, when the young girl said, are you in an open relationship? And she said, no. She said, I am faithful. I am the woman. The women do not have the same need as a man.
Oh my God, that's far from the truth.
That's
Look,
way
women
far
have
from the
needs.
truth. Way far. I mean, y'all know what I said at the last show. So yeah, I mean, I love sex with a man. Yeah. So
It's pretty sad that and you're right, Lady Wisdom. I think to your point, you
mhm.
take what is for you and you leave the rest, right? You throw the rest out.
Mhm.
And again, in any advice that people give, you take what is for you and you leave the rest because not everybody is fit the same. We don't fit in the same puzzle. We all have our own, wants and desires and experiences and needs and what have you, and what we want out of relationships. And again, it goes back to getting advice from people. Take it with a grain of salt.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, what you need to do is figure out what you want, who you are as an individual, and what your relationship is with you before you try to get into a relationship with somebody else. Because if you're not true to your needs, that person that you're involved with is not going to be true to your needs either. You have to be true to your needs.
Right. Right.
But there's a difference between needs and wants, right?
Yeah.
True.
Exactly right.
True.
But
But
what Sherry,
wants are not going to be for the long term. I don't believe that wants is going to get you longevity.
yeah.
You think that's going to get us longevity? Wants versus needs. I think that, again,
No.
my perspective, your needs are going to give you longevity. Your wants are not going to get you there.
I mean, you need to build a foundation in a relationship, no matter what kind of relationship, friendship, marriage, parents, children. You must have some kind of solid foundation to build upon. Even if you don't agree with some of the things they do or say, then that mutual respect to be able to say, okay, I don't agree with you, but we can still be lovers, we can still be friends, we can still be mother and son, mother and daughter. I mean, we raise our children, or don't we go into relationships with, I don't want to meet someone who's just like me. I don't want to be in a relationship with someone who's just like me. I mean, I'm spicy, for heaven's sakes. I want some spice in that thing.
You want some spice. Doris too. Look at her. She's smiling because I know Lady Wisdom wants some spice in her life. Come on, we all want some spice in our life. Come on.
Yeah,
we do. I mean, the thing is this. I believe that at some point in time, we all want a companion. Companionship is beautiful.
Yes,
absolutely.
I agree. Yep.
We may even want it to go further than just companionship. We may at some point want to have a full-fledged relationship. It's just that we are in a different place. Like right now, I believe that because we're older and we're more experienced and more mature, there's things that we won't tolerate, put up with. We set our boundaries and our standards, and it makes a difference for us.
Yeah.
Now, when you're advising somebody, advise them to look at them. Get to challenge them to learn about them, their likes and their dislikes. You got a lot of people that don't like to be in their own company. I will go sit in a restaurant and have me some breakfast, lunch, or dinner on my own. I will go to the movies. I'll go shopping and do all kinds of things on my own. I'll go to museums and so forth.
Yeah.
The reason I'm able to do that is because I don't mind being with me. Right?
Me too.
So we have to learn to teach those that are watching us and those that are listening to us that it's okay to be you at all times. And you don't have to settle for less, because I'd rather have a whole, healthy, mature man than a broken piece of man in my life. Whatever your choice is for a significant other, you need to be sure that you are whole, so you'll recognize another whole person. We all got some things we dealing with. We all got some issues. But if you come out of an abusive relationship, that's what you should be, or that should not necessarily be on your list. That should be a priority for you not to find or be in that kind of relationship again.
So true.
But broken people attract broken people.
Yes.
They do.
Yes, they do.
They do.
Yeah.
I have a more of a fun side question because I want to know. Because I need to know. So we have some beautiful panelists here that have children. We've already established that. Some grown children. And we have some single panelists here. I was trying to get to this earlier, but I'm going to get to it now because we're kind of ramping down here, and I think this will be a fun one to talk about. Maybe. Maybe not. But how about advice? Now, your children have been through some things, right? They've been through some things, their own relationships, their own experiences now. you now are in a position where you're possibly looking for a relationship. Do you take any advice from your kids?
Yes,
Mom,
I do. Yes, I do.
I do.
Yeah.
Yep, I do too. Hmm.
so what are some of the things that your children tell you? Because I'm telling you, for me, like when my parents are having their own little thing or whatever's going on, like sometimes my mother's talking to me and I'm like, that's my mother. That's my father, and I'm
Who
feeling
are human? Who are human beings? Who are
exactly,
human?
exactly.
Yeah,
We are all human, and I have to always say that. I'm like, I'm human,
yeah.
but I also have to look at things from both perspectives and what have you. But with that said, what are some of the things that your children tell you as far as relationships are concerned as you're trying to get into a relationship? Or did they come and say, "Ma, you need to go out and start dating. What's going on?" Or what are some of the conversations that you all have that your children bring to you?
I've
Hmm.
had that conversation with my daughter.
What
Mom,
does your daughter say?
it's like, Mom, you need to get out there so you can start dating,
Mm,
you know? But where we are, I'm not necessarily interested in dating here.
mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, my kids think it's time for me to start dating again. They just don't know that the pickings right now is just that slim.
Woo, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
Mhm.
Because I think everybody experiences that these days. There's a lot less marriages because there's a lot of less. Now, I don't know. Is it a lot less pickings or is there something else going on? Doris, let's talk about you. Come on, you got to bring that one.
I don't recall anybody saying anything to me about actually like out and dating, but I know one of my daughters said that I was boring. So I think about that.
She said you need a little pep in your step.
I don't know where she got that from. I guess because maybe to her, I'm kind of serious but funny, but serious but funny. But I heard her. I heard her say I was boring. But as far as
Oh,
nobody's crying. Nobody cares. I heard her. But I don't know. Nothing lately. I guess they're busy doing their own thing that I'm too busy listening to them right now, I think. So
Yeah,
mm.
yeah. I,
Listening to them, but there's some advice coming that way. There's some things you're taking in from them.
I mean, if I decide to or start seeing somebody or whatever, I'm pretty sure they'll have things to say. I'll have to be
Mhm.
careful who I'm dating at this point because they're going to be watching and censoring and sifting through and doing the things that parents do because they're adults. And
Yeah.
although I wasn't a teenager mother, I was 20 when I had my first child. We still grew up together. And so
Mm-hmm.
while I'm the mother, we still have a friendly relationship. And a lot of people may disagree, but I think that's important. I'm the mother. I've made the rules. They followed them to the best of their ability or the most that they were willing to do. But we have that friendship. So right
Mm.
now, I'm not saying anything about dating, and they're not saying anything. So we're all at peace right now.
You're all at peace right now.
We're
That's
at peace.
hilarious. I love that. I love that. Jay,
Wow.
Miss Spicy, because Spicy came for us about a show or so ago. She just her and Mama C, they just went all out. Last show, Jay, what are some of those conversations? Do you take
Well,
advice from your
I mean,
sons?
so I have all sons, but my daughter-in-laws are the buffer. And when I say that, they will say to my son, if my son makes a comment about me dating or whatever, they'll be like, "Why are you saying that to your mom? Your mom needs to have a relationship." And I mean, I have said my children at the beginning when I became a widow first, they didn't want to even hear about me being with someone else. But I have to say, all of them have said, "We just want you to be happy. Just
Mm,
be happy, mom. You deserve to be happy." And I was a young widow. I was 50. I just turned 50, and I have to say though, I'm still very married in my heart to my husband.
Mm.
So there's that. And I am, going to therapy in regard to it, but I do like to date. I like to go out and have fun. I like to hike. I like to cross country ski. I like to bowl. I like to have dinner and just talk. I like all those things. And I mean, I'm soon going to be hitting the 7-0 mark. And I'm finding a lot of men my age just want to kind of like watch TV and like they're not active enough for me.
Mm. So you need a younger man.
Well, my dear friend, she said that to me, and I said, "Oh, I don't know about that. I really don't want to ruin him for all the other women that come along after me." But no, seriously, I mean, I have very few men friends my age that are active, is my
Mm.
point. So it's more difficult as you get older. It really is. It
Well,
really
I
is.
have to say, ladies, it has been a pleasure on today's show. I mean, all the insights and the wisdom and the conversation about relationships and advice and who's
Yeah.
qualified to give it. There was a lot of great pieces of information that came through today. The dynamics of relationships and the emotions and everything that comes with it, and how you operate in the environment with those around you. But I guess, the biggest message is really knowing self. I'll go around the room real quickly, like last bit of advice on relationships. Who's qualified to give it? What are your last minute thoughts, Doris?
I don't know. One thing we didn't touch upon is talking to people who want advice that don't want advice. But
Mm.
I don't know. I don't know. I can't answer. Let's move along.
Well, I think that goes back to the Facebook posts and people that want advice but don't really necessarily want it. But that's another show. We could definitely
It
get into
is.
that one.
Yeah.
Definitely can get into that one because that's a whole. We will step into that one.
I think that like I said before, people need to be quiet first because we react off of our emotions. So just be quiet for a minute, sit quiet with yourself, and then be rational when you explain
Mm.
your situation, and be rational when you just that you want to explain your situation to.
Mhm.
And that's the advice of Doris Johnson. Everything Doris. Moving on. Thank you, Doris. And Lady Wisdom, what do you got for us? What's your last minute advice?
I just think people just need to be conscious of where they solicit advice.
Mm.
As for myself, I'm grateful to get to know me, and I think that people need to get to know themselves.
Mhm.
For relationships, what works for one relationship may not work for the other.
Mm-hmm.
What looks good to you because they might be wearing it well doesn't necessarily mean it's going to look good on you. So be mindful where you seek your relationship advice, whom you feel comfortable enough to go to for advice. And sometimes just get alone. You don't necessarily need somebody to come to you
Mm.
and tell you what you should be thinking, feeling, or saying
Mm.
in a relationship. Learn your mate.
Mm.
Whomever your mate is, find out their love language. Find out how they learn. Are they audible? Are they, hands on? Once you learn certain things about your mate, you'll be really surprised what the things that you have in common, including advice, where you get seek your advice.
Mm.
I want my guy to go to somebody that knows, that is a mature man that can give him wisdom. And I also want lady friends like I have that I could turn to and seek wisdom from. And again, take what you need and get rid of the rest.
Lady Wisdom, be mindful. Be mindful. He always says that. Be mindful.
Yep,
Miss
it's important.
Jane, Miss Spicy, what you got for us?
Well, I think I agree with everything that was said. I also think you do have to be comfortable when you're by yourself.
Mm-hmm,
That's the person that's going into the relationship.
mm-hmm,
I also think you have to lead by example. If a partner wants to really love you, they will learn to know what makes you happy and what doesn't, and
mm,
vice versa. And vice versa. Like with my husband, I knew certain things, would just set him off. So
mm,
that was the approach, it was the
mm,
words that I was able to get this, get through the subject, but it was something he really didn't, he was uncomfortable with, but it was the way I presented it to him.
mm-hmm,
And I think as you go on in years in a relationship, even if it's with yourself, you learn, you learn to lead by example. That's the best way I could put it. But you do have to love yourself first before you can do anything healthy in a relationship.
Love thyself. Love thyself.
Hmm.
Be mindful.
Yeah.
I know, Mama C, take time to get to know the person you want to develop a relationship with, build intimacy before becoming sexual and going all gaga over someone who might not be worth it.
Hmm.
And that's coming from Mama C. So
Yep.
with that said, ladies, thank you all for your time today. It was amazing conversation. I'm sure
Thank
there's
you.
plenty more we can be getting into that will definitely move into another conversation and another show topic. But with that said, I love y'all. Thank you so much from the sistership. Thank you, Doris. Thank you, Lady Wisdom. Thank you,
Great show.
Jane, Tiffany Rowe. This is your girl, Steph Fire, Ms. Bling. We are on the sistership every Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, thesistership.com. Don't miss us next week when the brothership takes hold of the sistership network. We love y'all. Peace and love.
We're my sisters, we got this sisters. You roll with me and I roll with you. We're my sisters, we got this sisters. You roll with me and I roll with you. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Let's talk about sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Let's talk about this. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Let's talk about this. Sistership, we got this now. Come on, let's talk about it. Be on the sister.
We on a sister step.